One of the challenges with getting feedback is people tend to be nice to you. This is the same issue that the mom test dealt with, but for books instead of for businesses. And you want to know where they're bored. You want to know where they're confused. You want to know where they're angry, but people won't leave you those comments. And so we just put in like those as buttons. It's like, this seems a bit slow. This seems a bit confusing. And we found that it massively increases the amount of negative feedback you get, which is really helpful. That's exactly what an author should want to hear. And it feels emotionally bad. It always does. Even for me, I know it's amazing and it still hurts because you work hard and you're in many ways, when you put a book out for review, for reading, for feedback, for whatever, you're exposing a piece of your soul. And it's hard to know that you missed the mark.
You look at beta reading as a kind of marketing tactic as well.
So beta reading overlaps with marketing. So I like to start marketing in the second half of beta reading. So when I know that the book still has problems, it's still got lots of typos, but the finish line is in sight. I can tell that people are getting value. And so I know that I'm going to be able to finish in 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. I don't like starting to pre-sell too early because personally, I don't like the tension of the deadline with a giant creative task. I like to know that I've sorted out the main creative challenges and that it's just execution challenges like editing, proofreading. That stuff is still important, but it's not risky. You can put it on a timeline. You can put it on a schedule. So that's when I like to start pre-marketing and pre-selling. The other approaches that are useful if you're first time, the biggest one, but it's also the highest time cost, is to write the book more or less in public. So as you write sections and chapters, as you do your research, as you make progress, you're sharing all of that. Maybe it's blog posts, maybe it's tweets, maybe it's LinkedIn updates, maybe it's TikTok videos. It can be whatever. But basically, you're spending a year deeply thinking about some topic. You can use that activity. Austin Kleon in the book, Show Your Work, he says it really well. He says, at the end of your day, take 10 minutes, share something that you built that day, something that you learned that day, something you struggled with that day. Just share it. He's like, yes, it takes time. Yes, you're tired. Yes, you don't want to do it. But like, you got to. And if you do that every day, then by the time you're ready to launch the book, you got a little platform. That's really helpful if you're willing to do it. However, there's other options. The others I use is if you haven't done that and you're launching, the podcast book tour is really powerful. You have a book that, at least for nonfiction, it solves a problem. It accomplishes something. You've researched deeply some interesting topic for the last year. You've got stuff to say. And so that's content for the podcast host, right? It's a really good excuse to reach out. Another way you can do it is Amazon's PPC ads, pay-per-click ads, are actually really good, especially if you're self-published. Because when you're self-published, you get higher margins per book, about 5 times higher, which means you can outbid traditionally published authors and publishers while still turning a good profit. So a 3-to-1 profit is not unusual. Now, you're only going to get a small amount of volume, but it's enough to get your first few hundred or 1,000 readers over a few months. And then my view is ultimately the book is either recommendable and long-lasting, or it's not. If it's not recommendable and long-lasting, then you're in a tough spot because you need to be the book's marketer forever. And that's hard because books are low value, undifferentiated products. Whereas if the book is recommendable and long-lasting, then you can just find 500 people or 1,000 people and say, that's it. That's all the marketing I'm ever going to do for this book. And then they will talk about it. That's what I did for the mom test. I marketed 800 books myself, 700 through event giveaways, and then 100 through content marketing. After that, I said, great. I put 800 of them out there. It's now going to either succeed or fail based on its own merits. And it's now sold, 80,000. So I got, pretty good leverage, 100 to 1 or something on the copies I sold myself, which makes it a lot more profitable. The same held true for my second book. The same appears to be true for my third book. But, when you're doing that, when you're counting on word of mouth, you have to be relentless about your product design, your testing, your beta reading, all of this stuff.